The bubble bursts once again at Darlington. This time it's Chase Briscoe. Let's talk about it. Coming up next. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing good today. All right, Chase Briscoe breaks through. He busts the bubble once again. Once again, a driver that was not in the top 16 wins a race and locks themselves into the playoffs. So we'll discuss a little bit about that as well. But Chase Briscoe, at 29 years of age, wins his second career race, and he does it in amazing fashion. Kyle Larson by far had the fastest car all night, but it wasn't that Kyle at the end of the race that was hunting him down, because he had a two-time champion in Kyle Busch who had newer tires, and he was tracking him down, could not quite get the job done. Chase Briscoe holds him off and does what he needs to do on this evening to get himself into the playoffs for a Stewart-Haas racing team that is shutting down at the end of the season. And Chase Briscoe, of course, going to JGR. So huge win, huge clutch moment for him, whatever you would like to call it. And of course, he has previously been in the playoffs in 2022, where he finished 9th. So I think it is worth discussing. Do you think he can improve on that? Do you think this time around he will improve on that 9th place finish, or will he fall short of that 9th place finish? I think that's an interesting thing to act, because of all the spoilers in here, I feel like Chase Briscoe is quite possibly the biggest wild card. He is such a kamikaze driver. He is either going to win or wreck. That's the way I've always seen him. So I think he is one of the more interesting drivers here in your bottom 16 going into the first round of the playoffs. Of course, we can't talk about the win without talking about the move to get that win. He engaged the slingshot. I saw that meme of that, like the Ricky Bobby Talladega Nights thing, and engaged the slingshot. You saw that meme going around. So yeah, Kyle Larson and Ross Chastain. Ross Chastain up there on strategy. But anyway, Ross Chastain was up there. He was on the older tires, going with an aggressive strategy there. Kyle Larson goes to pass him, and then Chase Briscoe engages that thing, makes it 3 wide. Chase Briscoe gets the advantage, clears both of them, and that was the move for the race. So really good, aggressive move from him there. And then, of course, to reiterate, he did also have to hold off Kyle Busch after that, because there was a slew of cautions which affected the cut line, which didn't end up even mattering because, of course, Chase Briscoe won. Anyway, let's run down that top 10. Once again, like I said, Chase Briscoe wins. Kyle Busch, another strong performance. Ever since the Olympic break, RCR has found something. They took that Olympic break very seriously. They turned that organization around since then, and at least thus far, a 12th, a 4th, a 2nd, and a 2nd since the turnaround there. Getting rid of Andy Petrie, whatever they did to make these cars faster, they have figured out something. So kudos to RCR right there. Christopher Bell finishing in 3rd. Not a lot of people talking about Christopher Bell, but as we're going to look at the points here in just a second, more people, once again, should always be talking about Christopher Bell because he's always a threat. Kyle Larson, despite leading 263 laps in this race, winning 2 stages, does not get the win and does not get the regular season title, which we'll also touch on here in just a minute. Ross Chastain ends up finishing 5th. He did everything he could. The crew had great strategy over there at Trackhouse. Unfortunately for them, they didn't quite have enough raw speed for Ross Chastain to get up there and make anything happen, but a good solid run for him. Just unfortunately wasn't their day. Then you see Chris Buescher here finishing in 6th place. 11th in overall points, which we'll touch on here in just a minute, but he doesn't make the cut line either. Denny Hamlin, it finishes in 7th. He had a fast car, was sort of on a weird strategy, and he ends up here in 7th place. Joey Logano stayed pretty much in the top 10 all day once he got to it. Big run here for Corey LaJoie, finishing in 9th place. His first top 10 on a non-restrictor plate track, so he's been catching hell on social media ever since it's been announced, and even before it was announced that he's not coming back to this car. So good run for him and some positive momentum for them. They definitely needed that over there. Tyler Reddick with a 10th place finish. He, with that 10th place finish by 1 point, gets the regular season title over Kyle Larson, so he did what he needed to do. Had some stomach issues. He did clarify post-race that he didn't do any of that stuff to himself in his actual driver's suit. In the race, he was just saying that, I guess, on the radio. Chase Elliott finishes 11th. Good finish for him, because he definitely missed the setup there on the 9 team today. Ryan Preece in 12th, Austin Cindric 13th, Brad Keselowski 14th, and Austin Dillon 15th. So that was your top 10, but the vast majority of this race, people talked about the cut line, the cut line, the cut line. Martin Truex Jr. wrecks early in the race. He collects Ryan Blaney. Ty Gibbs gets caught up in a wreck, but both of them had a big enough cushion that really didn't matter or affect them long run because they were locked in with the cushion they had. Buescher involved in a wreck as well, but it didn't affect him as much as you saw with that top 10 finish. Bubba Wallace had a good car, had stage points in both of the stages. Then Ross Chastain and Kyle Busch, who I've also mentioned, they threw their Hail Marys, but it was to no avail because, like I said, Chase Briscoe, who was also around that cut line, I think around 18th before the win here, he gets the win. So of the people around the cut line, Chase Briscoe did the thing you need to do most in this particular format. He won the race. So let's look at the regular season points. Tyler Reddick wins by 1 point right there over Kyle Larson, and we'll just go through the rest of the top 16 to see how it played out and how the natural 16 in points compare to the 16 in the playoffs. Chase Elliott, third there. Christopher Bell, fourth. William Byron, fifth. Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Ty Gibbs, and Martin Truex Jr. round out your top 10. And here's where it gets interesting because 11th, 12th, 14th, and 16th in points, Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, and Kyle Busch all are going to miss the playoffs because other drivers won, and that has caused a lot of controversy. Now, I want to be clear up front. They've all had the same rules at the beginning of the season, so I don't think any of the drivers should really complain about this, and I don't think any of the drivers have really complained about this. However, I've been saying this for the longest time. This system is flawed, and this is one of the reasons the system is flawed. So you're hearing a lot of negative feedback. A lot of people are just now realizing how flawed the system is because a lot of those drivers have large fan bases, and when you've got that many large fan bases all coming together at once, we might see something adjusted rules-wise for the playoffs going forward. I don't think it'll be anything huge. I think it'll be just something like you have to be top 25 in points to win the race to qualify. So even if you win the race, you still have to work your way up to top 25 in points going forward. I think that is probably most likely the only adjustment we're likely to see in the playoffs going forward. But I will agree with Kyle Petty. To complain about it at this point, if you didn't make it, is sour grapes as a driver. But I don't think any of the drivers actually complained about it. I know he was sort of focusing that on Christopher Buescher, but I don't think Chris Buescher was really saying essentially that he was upset about not making the playoffs. I think he was just more disappointed in himself. That's NASCAR, and NASCAR always has controversy, but here are the guys in. 17th in points, Chase Briscoe. 18th in points, Daniel Suarez. 19th in points, Austin Cindric, all in via their win. And then down here in 34th, you see Harrison Burton, who was also in via his win in Daytona. So now let's get to the playoffs, and these are those playoff drivers. Kyle Larson is going to lead your way after the reset at 2040, followed by Christopher Bell, who will be 8 points behind him. Tyler Reddick, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Austin Cindric, Daniel Suarez, Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe, Harrison Burton, Martin Truex Jr., and Ty Gibbs will be your last man in as it stands. So right now, Ty Gibbs, Martin Truex Jr., Harrison Burton, and Chase Briscoe have some work to do because they're on the outside looking in as soon as the next round starts. 3 races from now. So we talked about the regular season championship, but the regular season owners championship is a different winner. That is the 5 car where Justin Allgaier and Kyle Larson combined to win the championship. And the only reason I mention this is Justin Allgaier is no longer championshipless because he was part of the owner group or part of the driver group that got this owner's points. So there you go. Justin Allgaier, the Gator, he gets himself a championship ring on the owner's points side of the deal. And I just like Justin Allgaier, so I felt like I'd mention that. All right, to the manufacturers' points battle, 909 for Chevrolet, 895 for Toyota, and with the win, Ford creeps even closer and into the battle with 868. So the manufacturer battle is far from being completed in itself. But all right, that's it. We are on to the playoffs now. 10 more races to decide it, 10 more weekends, and then we will have our new champion. All right, that's all I got for you on this one. If you made it this far, would love to have your subscription. If not, I'll just keep making these things. If you're already subscribed, you know I appreciate you all as well. If you got a question, comment, or anything like that, leave them down in the comments. I will get to as many of them as I can. I'm back from Tri-County, so I'm going to try to catch up on some of the other ones that I missed as well. And if you want to help out the channel, visit the merch store. The link is in the description. If you put a hat and a t-shirt in there, the t-shirt will be free. So basically, if you buy a hat, you get a free t-shirt. And other than that, thanks for your time. Peace.